Hi there, Unite for Our Community. Sue Weldon here, and welcome to the Ask the Experts series. We are here on this wonderful February Thursday, and we love that we can do these segments with you. Always honored to have our guests come on board and address some of the interesting topics that are front of mind for a lot of our community. And today we have the honor of bringing in one of our beauty advisors. She has been with us for over 8 years. And is just an expert in the field, really pioneering clean beauty for the past, 10 years. And of course, you may know her as the author of our Eat Pretty book series. And lucky for you guys, she's on her 5th book. So without further ado, I am going to bring in Jolene Hart. Just so grateful she is a friend of Unite for Her. And Jolene, I'm going to pull you in. How are you?
Oh, good. It's so good to be here. Thank you for the warm intro.
Oh, you're welcome. We love having time together. I feel like it's our girlfriend time.
Absolutely.
Well,
We always have something to talk about.
we do. And then you're always keeping me up on all the progress in clean beauty and really that healthy beauty. And today we're really going to focus a lot on our young women and our young girls. And before we get started, I just can't thank our education series sponsor enough. This education part is brought to you by Merck. They are one of our presenting sponsors, but we also have a supporting sponsor this time, and that's the Grimm family. And, the Grimm family, Katie is one of our women, and she really wanted to bring this segment for young women and girls because of her daughters and to ensure that her daughters had the best knowledge, especially what is out there front and center and really of interest to that age group. And I know just having a daughter and being around a lot of young women, it's always front of mind for me. I'm always thinking about what they can be doing a healthy swap out and how we can be proactive and how we can make sure that, they have the tools that they need to make these choices, especially when they get spending power, and they get that first job and they're able to buy some products on their own. So I'm so glad you are here to break it all down for us.
I'm so glad to be here. And this is such a topic that comes up periodically. And I think it wasn't until last fall that we decided we really need to create a guide for teens, for tweens, for the mothers and the family of these young girls to help guide them and give them some proactive tips that they can use as they start to buy these products for themselves. We know that teens in particular use more beauty products than any other demographic. And that tracks with my teen years. That's when you're creating your image. You're experimenting with colors and textures and looks and figuring out who you're going to be and who you are in different situations. And the beauty world makes that so much fun. And they do a great job at marketing to that age. But there's also, as we know as adults, there's some caveats that come with some of the beauty products especially in the US, where regulation has not been updated for many years and is much more loosely regulated than other places in the world. So we want to give our girls some healthy guidelines to make sure that they're making the best choices they can make. And I love that you talk about, this not just in the context of beauty, because it's not just about beauty. You want to talk about your overall exposure. So what are you eating? What is your air quality? What are you putting in your body? What is your food? What is the media you're consuming? There's so much that we want to talk about when we think about our health, and beauty is just one aspect of that, but it's important. So, and it's my wheelhouse. So I want to share today some of what I know about making those healthy choices.
Well, we love that you ended up authoring a guide for us that we used just at our Pink Invitational. We just got off our Pink Invitational, Jolene, as you know, and we had over 3,000 athletes there, and they all got the teen beauty guide in their swag bag. And the girls are looking at it and they're, going through everything. And I just love being able to educate them, even if they take away 1 or 2 or 3 little, bits of information. Next time they buy that lip balm, they might think a little differently on what is in there, and that's where we're putting, the label reading and all the things that are so, front and center when you're buying a package that's so colorful and really marketed, right, to teens, that you sort of have some education on what you're looking for. So the teen guide, we're going to make sure we have that in our chat. I know that I have Corianne behind the scenes popping things in for us. So that's so good. And then now, Jolene, I'm going to put you front and center.
Great. Thank you.
All right, so we have always our top 10 questions. That's how we do this segment. So I'm going to get started and just sort of dive in here on some of the things that are actually found in this guide. So if
Yes.
perchance you have the guide and you're able to pull it up because you were in our chat and you see it, follow along. All right, first one. So what ingredients are most important for my daughter to avoid in her personal care?
This is a great question because you can really, especially in the beauty industry, get carried away with concern about every little ingredient and what possible exposures that you could get. And we're not here to make anyone afraid of products or to stress anyone out about products, but we do know there's a certain category of ingredients that, especially at Unite for Her, we like to avoid, and those are called endocrine disruptors. And this category of ingredients mimics hormones like estrogen in the body. So you can imagine, especially for women at any age, women who are, developing and entering puberty, women of an age where fertility is on their mind, women segueing to menopause, your estrogen levels are very important in what's going on in your body. So these endocrine disruptors include, three big ingredients that you see a lot in personal care. Phthalates is one, and we'll talk about where those kind of pop up. You find them in fragrance and in plastics a lot, and that's why they're so ubiquitous. The second one is parabens. And you see these to a lesser degree. Paraben-free has become something that you'll see on the front of many packages, but parabens are still pretty widely used as preservatives. And then there's oxybenzone, which is a type of sunscreen ingredient that is also pretty widely used. And these are three of the top endocrine disruptors that we see often in our products. Again, they show up in synthetic fragrance, and this means scented candles, perfumes. It means your scented dryer sheets, things in your environment, as well as you put on your skin. Phthalates have been linked to autoimmune conditions, birth defects, reproductive health issues, even asthma. So it's sort of like a range of ways that they affect the body. They're used extensively in plastics to make them soft and pliable. And even recently, I think it was just this fall, there was a new study that came out on phthalates, and it was covered in the New York Times and CNN, widely exposed, that showed people with the highest levels of phthalates in their bodies have a 49% greater risk of death from health issues over the course of a decade. And we're talking about later on in life. But you can imagine if you start to be exposed to phthalates from birth, that this really does accumulate, this exposure over the course of your lifetime. And when we talk about beauty ingredients, it really is the dose that makes the poison, is sort of like the catchphrase. It may be a tiny, tiny dose every now and then, and that's not a big deal because your body has natural detox actions that are constantly working. But what happens if you're using 10 or 12 or 17 ingredients like the average teenager, and each of these has a dose of that ingredient and you use it every day, maybe multiple times a day over the course of a lifetime? What are those exposures? And we don't really have an answer to that, but we have to kind of take it into account when looking at our whole routine and what's really going into our body. So we know that phthalates are one to look at, and our exposures to plastics and to fragrances are concerning, and one of the ones that we like to recommend that you avoid. Parabens, again, they're preservatives that act like weak estrogens. And anytime you have an ingredient that acts like a hormone, it's kind of opening the door for hormonal disruption or dysfunction. And we know that exposure to external estrogens like parabens can increase the risk of breast cancer and cell abnormalities. So that's one that's always a red flag for Unite for Her. This has been on our list of ingredients to try to avoid for at least 8 years now, as long as I've been working with Unite for Her. And then that last one, oxybenzone, is a really widely used sunscreen active ingredient that's also suspected to act like an estrogen or a hormone disruptor in the body. So these three, they're big ones, and they're also easy ones to look on an ingredient list and avoid. Fragrance is one where if you turn over that label and you see that the fragrance is not noted to be something from a natural source, that you can kind of guess that the rest of the ingredients in the product probably are not focused on natural. That's kind of one tip that I use. If the fragrance is natural, if it says it's phthalate free, if it's from a natural source, then it's very likely that if the company has taken the care to make the fragrance natural, the rest of the ingredients are going to be a good quality as well.
Oh, that's a great tip.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that. I'm actually going to ask Corianne. We asked to write down those three ingredients in the chat.
sure.
So, and I know that they're in the beauty guide as
They're in the
well,
guide.
which
Absolutely.
Corianne put right in there. Cynthia, I see you put that in the chat. So know that
Yeah.
you'll be able to get that very much at the website on our Facebook page, and be able to hear all the information that Jolene is talking about. I love
Yes.
that you mentioned candles, because I think that's one of the ones that people just forget about. They want to set the mood, and
Right.
whether it's mostly adults, right? I mean, we set the mood. You're tired. Let's light a candle, and you just
Sure.
forget about that's a very heavy, fragrant item.
Yeah, and the great thing is there are so many alternatives that don't use synthetic
Yeah.
fragrance, so
Yeah.
you don't have to compromise if you enjoy that kind of setting the mood. In terms of air quality, it's always great to make sure you have a candle that's clean burning too, because even something like the smoke from your candle wick can be compromising to your health. But certainly, fragrance is one that we know is affecting, or is influencing our hormones. And when it comes to young girls, that also begs the question, how do endocrine disruptors affect puberty? And that the jury's still out there. We know that girls who are exposed before birth to endocrine disrupting ingredients are at higher risk for early puberty. Researchers at UC Berkeley have found that exposure to personal care ingredients, including those phthalates and those parabens, have also been linked to early puberty. And early puberty increases the risk of breast cancer and ovarian cancer over the course of a girl's life. So it may be a very small risk. And again, nothing is conclusive.
Yeah.
The research definitely suggests that teens and young girls are particularly sensitive to those exposures to those even trace levels of hormone disrupting chemicals.
Yeah, I mean, knowledge is power, Jillian, and I do feel like you said, it might be a small amount, a very small percentage, and you can't. I always say you balance your life, right? But the
Yes.
things we can control, like, let's control them, because there's so much we can't control.
Yeah.
And that's where I know I felt so moved to do that in my own life, because there was so much out of my control.
Yes, I
And
agree.
as a cancer survivor, so I wanted to make sure, what can I control, and just dive in there. And it
Right.
does give you like this balance, and then it becomes contagious. You start with your beauty products, but then you're moving on to your home products and your candles and your dryer sheets, but you start to see where it's sneaking into your life every day. It's like, oh, I can control that. I can.
Absolutely. And I don't know if you experienced this, but when I started to switch away from synthetic fragrance and then I would then smell a fragranced product later, I would realize how strong that fragrance
Totally.
was. And I didn't even note this before, but the phthalates in fragrance are there to create a long lasting scent. So they give staying power to that
Right.
fragrance. So if you notice, if you use a natural scent, it's not going to stay there all day. It's not meant to do that. And that is because it doesn't have those phthalates in there, but that's actually going to be a benefit.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I'm going to move on to our next one.
Mm-hmm.
How can I share my personal care product concerns with my daughter without creating fear? And
Yeah.
as you were talking, Jolene, I'm like, oh, it's all on how you do put that message out, so that you
Right.
don't have this fear. We definitely walk that line at Unite for Her, especially with our young women events like the Pink Invitational, and talking about breast health care.
Yep.
They're so young, right? And we just say, know your body. Just know your body, right? Like,
Absolutely.
that's your message. Know and see if there's any changes. So how would you
Yes.
how would you go about that one?
I think I like to equate it to junk food. So just like you can find a lot of junk food on store shelves, and maybe you're teaching your daughter about what kind of foods make her body feel good, what kind of foods are there maybe as a treat, and which other ones are the ones that fuel us. Remind her that you can also find a lot of junk food beauty on shelves, stuff that smells great and looks really pretty, but might not be there to be nourishing us in the way that we want. And you can also make the analogy that, you actually feed your bodies through your skin. So even though this is called our skin barrier, it's very permeable. And it's even estimated that your skin absorbs more than half of the ingredients in the products that you apply to it. So you're kind of feeding your body in a way as you put products on your skin. So it might seem like all products are created equal, but there are some junk food products out there.
Yeah, I love that. Good analogy. How about makeup? What's the safest way to start, Jolene?
Yeah. I remember, for young girls, I feel like drugstore makeup is usually where we start. And that can be tricky. I think the drugstore is one of the places where healthier beauty products have been the slowest to appear. There
Yeah.
are definitely better options now. And this is great because especially girls buying their own makeup, they want something that's going to meet their budget. And they're again in places like Target. I've seen in Walgreens, in Walmart. There are options now that are much more natural, even some organic options. Make sure your most used products are natural. So if your daughter is always using lip products and she's ingesting it a little bit every day, make sure that those products are going to be more natural. If she's doing a full face of makeup, maybe it's the foundation or the tinted SPF that you make sure is natural, and you don't worry so much about a little swipe of mascara or eyeshadow. You don't want to be so overbearing that it starts to become stressful and then you want to rebel in the other direction. You want to kind of find a balance and prioritize what's the biggest amount of absorption there.
Yeah, I love that. I do always say start with what you use every day,
Yeah, exactly.
and start there and just easy steps, right? Because it has to feel good. Or you won't
Exactly. You have to have fun with it. Beauty's about the way you feel too. It's about that energy shift you get, the joy that you get from it. It's as much about that as it is what you look like on the outside.
Yeah.
And just a reminder that a lot of specific brands are noted in the guide. So if you do download the guide, I have more than a dozen different specific makeup brands that I recommend for teens and tweens that are going to be marketed toward them, cute packaging, beautiful colors, but still be natural and organic options.
Yeah, and it is so good to get that list because, I know sometimes it can be like you need a degree to read the back
I
of these
know,
labels. I still will ping you and text you,
right?
Jolene, what's this
Yeah.
product? Right. But, know that Unite for Her is here for you. And we have those listed by Jolene, our trusted advisor in this guide. So that way we take the guesswork out, and you can find them anywhere, whether it's online or Target or at a lot of different places. I mean, one of our top partners is Acure Beauty, and
Yes.
they have just been so good to us in so many different levels of donation giving so that our
Mm-hmm.
community can feel it, and see how well they do on these types of products. So
Yeah.
I know we talked a little bit about lip balms and, the
Mm-hmm.
scented lip balms. Tell me a little bit about the scented one.
Yeah, I mean, those scented lip balms are like a teen and tween staple, right? They're in everybody's backpack and purse. Um, Most brands contain synthetic colors, synthetic flavors, waxes that are derived from petroleum. And, whether or not we need to avoid these is still up for debate. I think it's great if you can look for natural lip balm alternatives because there are tons out there. And you've heard of Burt's Bees. You've probably heard of the EOS, the little round ball
Egg.
lip balms.
Mhm.
Look for the ones that are organic by that company. There's
Okay.
also a brand called Hurrah, Babo Botanicals, and you'll find these again in Target, in your supermarket even. So
Yeah.
there's good options out there, and they still smell great, and they might not have the sparkles and glitter in them, but they still kind of fit that category. And if you're ingesting them little by little, I think there's something that's a little bit better for your body.
Yeah, totally. We have another friend of ours that is good to Unite for Her, Carrie Grand. And before I did this segment, I went up and I got my Carrie Grand lip balm on.
Oh
And guess
yeah.
what? Guess what color it was?
Was it Jolene? Carrie is
It
amazing.
was.
And I would
Yeah.
say if you're a mom and you want to give your teen daughter like a sophisticated lip color, like one of the Carrie Grand lip whips is gorgeous. It's
Yeah.
not for like 10-year-olds, but it's like a special lip
It's
color
a
that gives you
special
the
line.
perfect tint. And for that age group, Ilia is a beautiful line. Axiology has these really cool little zero waste little lip colors. So there's like cool products out there that are also really thoughtful about sustainability and their earth
Packaging.
friendliness, which young
Mhm.
girls are really caring about, which is amazing. And
Yeah.
so you can kind of check all those boxes and give them something that's going to be good for their body too.
Oh, awesome. Again, all in your guide, right,
Yeah,
Jolene?
all
So
those brands are in the guide, definitely.
perfect. All right, let's move on to one of my least favorites. And that
Uh,
is deodorant. Oh
I
my gosh,
know.
Jolene, I have like four going on now at the
Yeah.
same time, and I switch them out, and it's a tough one, but it's an important one. So, can you help guide us there?
This one is tricky. And so for deodorants, aluminum is really the ingredient of concern here. Aluminum works to block sweat. So you will find it only in antiperspirants. It's not in deodorants. There's a difference, right? Antiperspirants are the one that totally block sweat. Deodorants are the one that change the odor with whether it's fragrances or neutralizing ingredients. And there's currently no evidence that aluminum affects breast cancer development, but there is evidence that aluminum affects the endocrine system by changing how the body produces or responds to estrogen. So it's like, it's a slight difference there, but that's something that is important. There was a 2018 study that suggested that too much aluminum can change how your body makes or responds to estrogen, and changes in that endocrine system can be harmful to your body over time. So you imagine if you're starting as a young girl, when you first use a deodorant, if you're using antiperspirant and you're getting that aluminum, that it could be something significant over your lifetime. There was another study that found a correlation between antiperspirant use with aluminum and then women with breast cancer finding that aluminum accumulation in breast tumors. So whether or not the aluminum simply accumulates in the tumors and doesn't necessarily cause them, we don't exactly know. But again, this might be enough for some moms to say, you know what, I will look for a regular deodorant for my daughter. And like you said, it's not super easy, but fortunately for girls, I think when you're entering puberty, your sweat capabilities are a little bit less, and sometimes your odor is a little bit less. So when you start with something that's a little gentle, you might find that it works just fine for you. The one thing that you might want to look for is a particular deodorant that doesn't have baking soda. Baking soda can be a little bit irritating. And I think, for young girls, if you start with something that's going to be irritating, you're not going to want to continue with it. Yeah. So look for a baking soda free version. A lot of brands that are out there, I list a bunch of my favorites in the guide, have baking soda free versions, or they'll say sensitive, and that's a baking soda free. And that just helps to avoid any unnecessary irritation, because it does kind of irritate a good amount of people. But yeah, there's some great ones out there, and it might take a little trial and error.
Yeah, and switching them up,
switching them up.
Yeah,
but certainly as you're sort of just developing and kind of practicing with new products, I think that's something that could work really well.
Yeah. Tell me about, I see charcoal in a lot of ingredients now. Why is that ingredient in there? And the natural, in the organic, but what is it about charcoal that is, making their way in?
Charcoal has those adsorptive properties. It's a detoxifying ingredient. It's a little bit of a trendy ingredient, so whether or not it's making a big difference is sort of up for debate. You find it in some toothpaste too, some whitening toothpaste. And I think it does have some effect. And you would imagine in a deodorant would be a great place to have it. If anything's going to be absorbing, that charcoal would be good there. But whether or not it's necessary, some formulas rely on it. Others will use something like cornstarch or arrowroot starch, or another kind of starch that's going to absorb moisture.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a great tip too about the baking soda, because when the young girls, especially when you're shaving and your pores are open and the irritants, and you hit it the wrong way, and then all of a sudden it's like, I'm out. I'm not using that.
Not using that.
Not going to use that anymore.
Right.
All right. How about hairstyling products?
Yeah, I think with hairstyling products, one of the big concerns for me would, again, just be fragrance. There's a lot of products that you are spraying and inhaling. So that's something that you want to think about too. It depends on how often you're using hair products. If it's every now and then for a gymnastics meet or a recital and you're having your hair done, it might not be as big of a concern as if your daughter's styling her hair with these products every day. But yeah, look for something that has a fragrance from natural sources. And certainly if it's an aerosol, you want to make sure that you're not breathing in those products. Get good ventilation, open your bathroom window if you're using it, and teach your daughter those tips too, so she knows to always remember, have good airflow, and make sure you're not breathing in a lot of these products.
Yeah. As you're saying that, I'm picturing myself in the 70s.
I know.
The products our mom used to put on us, and I'm like, Aquanet being one of them.
Yeah.
But, this is leading me to the next question. It's like, what about if my daughter is already using these concerning ingredients? Is it too late? And I just feel like it's never too late.
It's never too late for anyone. Right?
We all
anyone.
use concerning ingredients. Come on.
Yes, and your body is detoxifying all the time, constantly. So you eliminating a few of these ingredients from your routine is only just helping that to work better. And we can prove this. There is a great 2016 study that was done of 100 teens that showed that changes happen really quickly in your body after you
Amazing.
make those personal care swaps. So these girls switched to only natural products, and within 3 days, their urine levels of phthalates, of parabens, of triclosan, which is another possible endocrine disruptor, it's an antibacterial, decreased by as much as 45% just over 3 days. So think about your body's just, okay, we're done with that. I'm not getting it in anymore. So it's all going to be eliminated. So
Yeah.
you imagine the changes take place really quickly. And it makes you realize an exposure here and there is not a big deal. It really is about the cumulative exposures every day, multiple times a day over a lifetime that you want to be concerned about.
Yeah. And one step at a time. I
Exactly.
mean, you don't have to, throw everything out and
Right.
start all over. Just one step at a
Yeah.
time. I know a big topic too is, when a young girl is about to get her period, and, what should we look for, and what should they look for in products that she uses?
Yeah.
That wasn't really talked about when we were young, Jolene, and I just feel like now it's definitely getting more and more mainstream that people are talking about these products.
It is. And I have to say, Sue, like for as many years as I've been using, natural products, this is not one that I thought about for a long time either.
Mhm.
Conventional feminine care products, so your pads, your tampons, are often made with synthetic materials that have endocrine disrupting compounds. They have pesticides and fragrances. And then you have them in that highly absorbable
Yeah,
vaginal area. And it makes so much sense, but wow,
great.
we're really not thinking about it because it's just part of life. It's just what you do,
Mhm.
during that part of your cycle. So these days there are so many alternatives, and you see that in the big companies now, the Tampax, the OB, the Always. They have organic versions now, so
Right.
that this is a legit concern, and that people are driving demand that these
Yeah.
products be made with less of these chemicals. So Seventh Generation is another great brand. There's NatraCare, Honest, Sustain. And if you don't want the disposable products, and this might be for older girls, you can use the reusable silicone menstrual cups, and those are great. It takes a little more effort, so it's maybe
Yeah.
not right away. Once you sort of know your body a little better, menstrual cups are great, and they're convenient, they're reusable, and there's not going to be any chemicals leaching into your body, which is fantastic. So good for the environment and good for your body.
Yeah, I love that you said, we do vote with our dollar,
Yeah.
right? And it's so key. Like, when you start investing in these products, you'll see the demand go up, and you'll also see the price come down
Mm-hmm.
because it's more in demand, and they're getting more business. So just love that you made that point.
Yeah.
All right, here's another one. So her daughter is leaving for college. How can I encourage her to pay attention to what's in her product when she's on her own? And we all know that college life, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
There are so many decisions to be made as an adult that influence our health, both in the short and long term. So having that conversation that like every good decision helps. And it may seem at that age like these exposures don't amount to much. And it can also, I think, at that age be more expensive to buy organic period
Totally.
products or personal care products. So you might want to offer to supplement that cost or create a monthly budget just to show that it's something that is important enough to you that you will be there to support it and encourage it. Because I think when you are looking to buy products and you've got a drugstore version that's $5 or $10 less than the organic version,
Yeah.
those things matter when you're in college for sure. And it's hard to see the long-term benefits when you can see, I can save $10 right here. So maybe
Totally.
helping to supplement that, and also just reminding her that that's something that it is important to you. It's one of your values. And in choosing organic food or in choosing a cleaner environment, this is also something that goes along with that. So if she's concerned about, the health of the planet, her health matters too.
Yeah, for sure. I just popped Susan up there because it is great advice. Like, I remember that. That's to me, your ultimate care box, right? When you're
Yeah.
sending away a care
Oh,
package to
yeah.
your kids, and you're filling it with all the things that they miss. But here, you just sort of set them up for success, and they don't have to worry about the extra dollars that it costs to get those products.
Right.
Yeah.
And once you can instill those habits, I think as an adult, they're much easier to maintain if you kind of start them when you're young.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Well, I always learn so much when I am on with you, Jolene. Is there anything else, like any other exposures beyond the personal care that you feel like we should worry about?
I mean, we talked a little bit about plastics,
Mm-hmm.
and certainly whatever cleaning products or detergents you use at home, BPA lined cans, excuse me, even like plastic takeout containers and water bottles. Just think about your exposures and all these things, and remind your girls that those exposures matter as well.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I'm
Yeah.
actually going to comment a little bit. I remember watching a special, and we're so in tune to recycling and making sure we're good, and watching what we buy, and we vote with our dollar there too, right? Like we
Right.
vote with our dollar there too. But I did hear this, and I was like, that is so true. Here I'm putting all of the blame on me as a recycler, and it should be the companies. They shouldn't be making those things, right? Like they shouldn't even make it an option. And then they turn it around because they, can end up gaining.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to see
Rates.
how these girls drive demand even further in their lives, right? I think that they're going to even shape bigger changes than we've seen.
Oh, totally. I love the younger generation. They
Yeah,
inspire
me
me.
too.
I know. I even thought I was going to do a TikTok this weekend because I was
Oh, look at that.
I was watching all of our social media. I'm like, oh my God, that's so fun.
Nice.
Too fun. Yeah. Well, Jolene, thank you. Always a
Yeah.
pleasure. Always good advice. You cannot, just don't miss all of that Jolene is giving to our community right on our website or in this post. And we have videos of Jolene, and we have things that you can share, with your
Just good
daughters, with your
tips.
loved ones. Great tips, easy, approachable, one step at a time. And we're always watching our Facebook, for questions, and we'll definitely have a nice line right to Jolene if there's something we don't know.
Yeah, send questions via social media and we can answer more. But I think this was a good foundation. And again, that guide reviews and recaps a lot of what we talked about today with specific brands. If you're ready to hit the stores and go shopping, it'll give you
Yeah.
some good ideas. I also in there listed for fun a lot of the younger celebrities that are very focused on natural and organic beauty, because I think that might sway some girls in conversations, like remembering which of these women that they maybe follow and want to emulate a little bit are also prioritizing choosing those products. So
Yeah, I know our influencers, right? It's all about being
yeah,
influencers.
it's
Yeah.
true.
Well, you're our biggest one, Jolene. We love you. We
Oh,
love
I
you.
love you. I love you as well. And this was such a great idea. I'm so glad that you're sharing this topic. It's so important for so many women. So thank
Yeah,
you.
you are welcome. All right, that's another one in the books. Our Ask the Experts. Again, we thank our lead sponsor, presenting sponsor, Merck, and of course our supporting sponsors, Exact Science, and the beautiful Grimm family who made this happen and helped us with these guides, all because she wanted to make sure her daughters were getting that, information front and center in their life.
Beautiful donation.
Yeah. All right, Jolene, thank you. You have a
Thank
beautiful day.
you. You too. Bye, everyone. Thanks for attending.
Bye-bye.